In this video, I want to give you a short demo of the human-in-the-loop AB-BPM tool. And the first thing we need to do is to upload the relevant processes to the application. So right now we are not in a batch, so the instance requests that are coming in are routed to the default version and are not evaluated. So now let's check for a new batch policy proposal in the controls area. And as we can see, the first batch policy proposal is naive since there's no data that has been evaluated yet and there have not been experimental instances. So let's just start this first batch as it is. And now incoming process instantiation requests would be routed according to this batch policy for the next 10 instances because the batch size was 10. Since we do not have real incoming instance requests, we can activate the dev mode and simulate those. So afterwards, after we activate it, we see this client simulator here. Here we can just simulate 10 instantiation requests. And as you can see, there is a new batch policy proposal, but we have to remember that right now only 10% of the instances have been evaluated. This is because when the last instance of a batch has been started, a new batch policy proposal is created. But that means that some instances might not have finished, so we can either wait and it will update automatically, or we can click refresh to manually trigger that update. So as we can see now, all instances have been evaluated and we have a new batch policy. And we can either leave it as it is or modify it and then submit it, or we could also end the experiment. But what we would do now is we would have a look at the data. So we can see experiment metadata, which is facts about the experiment, which state the experiment is in, and so on. But more interestingly, we can see aggregate data. This is, we can see an overview of the instances that have already been evaluated. And as we can see, 6 have been instantiated of A and 4 of B, and we can see some statistics here, and we can see over time which version has more instances that have been started. We can also go to the detail data to see each instance and how it has been routed, and we can even download a CSV which can be used for further analysis. So let's start a second batch. Let's go with the batch policy proposal again, which suggests that we should route more to version B, which makes sense since version B, as we see in the aggregate data, is faster. So let's follow this suggestion and let's simulate another batch of 10. So if we check the proposal now, you can see that only 50% of instances have been evaluated. This means that no instance of the second batch has been finished yet. So let's wait for a bit. Now more instances have been finished and we can have a look at the batch policy proposal again. And as you can see, it's skewing even more towards B. So it really thinks that B is the better version, and we can have a look at the data again to check if that matches what we see in the data. And as you can see, B is still clearly faster, and this is also reflected in the chart here. Since our batch policy for the second batch was to route more instances towards B, this is what happened during the second batch too. But for now, let's not do another batch, since we are already very confident in the results. So we can end the experiment and start the cool-off. So cool-off means that maybe some instances have not been finished at this point and we would wait for that, but right now all instances have probably already finished, and as we can see now they have, since in this end of experiment section that popped up we already have a final proposal. And what we can see here is what the reinforcement learning agent recommends as the next routing, and we can use that to make our final policy decision, or we can always have a look at the data again and use that, and in the end we make a decision for which customer category gets which version as a final policy. In our case, version B seems to be better for both customer categories, so we would choose it for the final policy. And after we submit it, all the incoming process instantiation requests would then be routed in accordance with our final policy decision. And then we can start this improvement cycle for a new process if we want to.